if you want to do no marketing for your book, but you want to have like an online presence or things like that.
Another chapbook, which was about a vending machine at my old job.
You're going to have your Word doc or your PDF, and you're going to have to go through a somewhat annoying process of format. Matthias, have you ever made a...
Jeff.
Have you ever made a chapbook before?
I have.
What was your process for doing that? Especially, let's just talk about production. Let's imagine you already have the poems, everything's together, you typed it up, you have your manuscript. What do you do with it?
Okay. Well, I've been a part of technically 4 different chapbooks, right? So my first 2 chapbooks, I had 0 experience in how to do it. I was really just kind of doing whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I went to Gemini, like the printing shop, off of, is that Gay Street?
So in Columbus, like a
It's
local,
in Columbus,
local place.
in downtown. Essentially, I essentially put together all of the poems that I had written that I thought were like okay poems, which my thinking at the time was pretty much all of my poems at the time.
These are all gold.
This is not. I'm proud. And I also think what maybe is a little bit of a non sequitur, but I think that like I'm glad that I did that
For sure.
Only because it's like you have to do that in order to learn what you don't like in the future. And then I made another chapbook, which was about a vending machine at my old job. Which is hilarious every time I think about it, but it's about a vending machine at my old job, and I just wanted to sell those things in pairs. But yeah, I wrote that entire chapbook pretty much in like 2 days.
And you went to a print shop again, or
same? So I printed them both at the same time. I went to Gemini's, and I gave them the poems, and the gentleman there, he kind of helped me sort through I had a Word document, and they said that they recommended like a couple different ways to actually put it into an actual chapbook format. I can't remember, because like the service that I ended up using, it was like something that I just Googled, and I was just like free trial, and I got like this like little free trial thing. And
so you put your like document in, and then it kind of formats everything.
You got to do a little bit of shifting and stuff like that, yourself. But I did that, and then I sent that. I processed that out, I think, in PDF form, and I sent that over to the Gemini printing shop. And I printed like 75 copies of each, and I actually did pretty good. I sold after like 2 months, I had sold all of them.
That's pretty good.
Which was good, but yeah.
Okay. So I'm seeing a lot of like print shop stuff.
Yeah.
If I wanted to find that chapbook today, could I?
Online or just in general?
Yeah, in general, yeah. Online.
I got
like if I want to order a copy.
Oh, you want to order a copy? No. Okay. So funny. Gia actually. Shout out to Gia. We did an interview. I think our interview is up now too. But Gia was just asking me about it, and Gia was like, where can I find your chapbook? I was like, you cannot find it.
Limited edition.
What chapbook? Poetry.
So I think this experience speaks to a lot of poets who think about just making a chapbook on your own, which if you are, cool, kudos to you. No shame in that. I think that's great. I want to talk about, what about this situation like years later, and now we can't, it's hard to do something with you to like dig up the file, go back to the print shop. You may not have a file. Like there's a lot of,
in some respects, the version of me that exists right now is glad that you cannot find in some respects. But no, I agree. I think like if I was better at it, So yeah, I agree. Like if I wanted to recirculate that project, I think that I still have the file so I could like engage like another reprint. I could do something like that maybe, but
you'd literally have to go back. So if someone wanted like a print copy, you'd have to go back to the print shop. Handle all that, make sure the formatting's still good and stuff like that, and things. And so today in this episode of Arts and Offers, I want to talk about another way that you can approach printing chapbooks on your own, especially through Amazon KDP. So I want to talk a little bit about that and some of the expectations, as well as some of the downsides for that. In case you haven't heard, he's Matthias. I'm Jeff. I think I've said Matthias' name several times already.
No, the first time Matthias. Matthias, have you ever written a chapbook before?
And I'm pretty sure you're like, Jeff. So one of the things that I think could be helpful to consider is that another way you can handle chapbooks through printing is you could use Amazon's KDP. If you're not familiar with what KDP is, it's Kindle Direct Publishing. And it basically enables you to, instead of printing off the work yourself every time it's requested or you need to do a run, you could rely instead on Amazon to handle fulfillment and also direct printing of the book. Now, so some advantages to this I just want to mention. If you go through Amazon KDP, some of this is going to be actually very similar to what you were describing. You know, you're gonna have to have your Word doc or your PDF, and you're going to have to go through a somewhat annoying process of formatting because KDP, well, it does have different formatting options based on the size of your book. To give an example, I don't have my little workbook here, but I have, like, for instance, my essay collection book. This was through KDP, you know, so it's like the hardcover option and things like that. And like this book size, they have lots of different sizes. My little workbook that I've mentioned before on the channel too, that's probably closer to like this size, you know, you can also do. But obviously these have different formatting things and the different margins and stuff like that. So you have to make sure everything's fitting in where you need it to. You need to make sure it has all the information. But let's imagine that once you get all that formatting done, then Amazon takes over the rest. So for instance, if Matthias had printed off his chapbook through KDP and someone wanted to order it today against Matthias's wishes, they could.
Deeply against my. How could you support my work?
You know, and because you know, it'll stay on Amazon, and you don't even have to worry about it, right? So they could do all that on their own. So like, if someone comes to Matthias like, "Hey, where can I get your chapbook?" You're like, "Oh, it's called blank," you know, and just search it on Amazon. And, you know, maybe add my author name if you can't find it, and then it'll come up and you can order it that way. So it enables people to access your work and order what they need much more easily than like, oh, I have to find Matthias. I have to, you know, get him to print out a copy and handle all those steps, you know?
Yeah. And also, I mean, because I think, you know, because even, I mean, I know services kind of similar to that had existed like before. I know that like I remember when I was like printing out, like when I was like printing them out, like one of the things was really just about how to utilize them for shows, which is also like kind of a really cool thing when it comes to like artists. You know, the longer that you're in the game and the more time that you have to like kind of research, the better it is when it comes to, you know, how you circulate your work and how, like, what kind of utility there is around circulating work. Because again, just like you said, if I go to a show and I perform, sometimes what'll happen is like people will just be like, you know, maybe I don't got, you know, $12-13 to spend on a chapbook right now. But also kind of like the portal when it comes to Amazon, I know for sure, like I can speak from experience because like I too impulse shop sometimes. So like sometimes in my mind I'm like, yeah, I don't got like $12-13 on me, but like the money that's on my card, I don't even see that. So
it's Monopoly money. Yeah,
that's Monopoly money. Yeah. So but it, like, you know, please steward your finances well. But outside of that, just the ability to be like, okay, well, I see something online and I can purchase this like right now.
Yeah.
Is kind of a good idea. I've done that a couple times. Like I was at a show at the Scatter Joy Project on High Street, and this gentleman, he was performing, and then like as he was performing, I was like, whoa, this work is really great. But he didn't have any books on him, but he was just like, yeah, but like Amazon has my books. And I was just like, oh, and I literally ordered it right there. So I even think that transaction, while it nets you probably less,
we'll talk about that.
But
yeah. So, you know, it's just a real quick way to get your workout in a way that you don't have to, you make and you forget about it.
Yeah.
You know, you remember your book now, but you know, 10 years from now, especially, you know, if you put out a decent amount of work, it's like, oh, I don't even remember all the books that, because you can make as many, you can put up as many as you want, right?
Yeah.
It stays sellable online. People can find it. People can also do things like if you're trying to get like testimonials for your work and things like that. People can leave reviews. Whereas like if you're just printing off at your print shop and things like that, there's not really a way for people to do that. Whereas like for Amazon, it's built into the system. And another advantage I would also mention is just that supply, because it's Amazon's print on demand, so the supply is large, right? Because they can print off however many you want for whatever situation or however many your buyer wants. So it's not like you have to have a living room full of books.
Yeah.
It's probably good to have some on hand, but people are still going to be able to access your work in some way. What I would say is that if this sounds like something that's intriguing to you, another from the book selling world, there's something called Ingram Spark, which is another, like, if you're like, okay, I have this chapbook and I also want to get this chapbook into bookstores. If that's your long-term play, then you will need to sign up for Ingram Spark, because that's how booksellers buy their books. It seems like Ingram Spark kind of like a monopoly on this, so you kind of have to play by their platform. So, but what you can do is, if you make a chapbook on Amazon, what you want to do is make sure to buy your own ISBN number. Okay. You'll need to buy an ISBN number. What's it called? I think it's called Bowker, like Bowker. Another seemingly monopoly. They're like the only company out there that gives out ISBNs. I don't know how this works. Like, it doesn't sound legal, but it is what it is. So you got to get an ISBN from them. But once you get an ISBN from them,
I mean, and maybe there's like fluctuating, but what's like the typical price point on an ISBN number?
So if you're really thinking about this, you may, because you can buy an individual ISBN for, I believe, $100. Okay. So it is an initial investment, right? If you're going this route, the ISBN will cost about $100 for one book. I think they have packages where you can get like 10 ISBNs for like $250 or something like that.
All right.
It was like, they have some, right. But then it's like, all right, now I have all these ISBNs and I maybe wasn't planning on using them. So it isn't an investment. You want to think about what you're doing, but they have different options like that. Don't quote me on the prices, but that's how it works. You will need an ISBN. If you use Amazon, because Amazon does have a free ISBN option, but if you do that, then you can't do the Ingram Spark. Because if you use the free, this is how Amazon gets you, right? Because they basically, hey, we'll give you free ISBN, but we're going to be your only supplier. Yeah. Whereas if you get your own ISBN, you can use Amazon or anybody because you control it. So that's the image of having your own ISBN. Okay, so I would say unless you're 100% certain that you're not going to be looking at like booksellers, like if you're just someone that like just wants to have a book out for like open mics and things like that, you're not really thinking about like putting in bookshops, just do the free one. Like my workbook is the free one. Yeah. Whereas like this textbook or like this like book of essays, this is the one I paid for. So I paid for ISBNs for these. So it depends on the purpose. But I think for like your average poet who just wants to have a physical copy and like supplier and things like that, the free one can probably be okay. The nice thing about this too, because some of you may be thinking about, well, I want to do like traditional publishing. Cool. Well, you can still kind of do this with like this Amazon KDP route, as long as you sell, I believe, under 200 copies or 500 copies. A lot of times publications will still allow you to go through like their contests or their open calls. Now you want to talk with their editors and things like that, because I can't speak for all of them, but this could be an option. You can kind of almost like double dip to a degree as you need. So just kind of something to consider with chapbooks. There are some downsides to this. Obviously if you go through this route for printing out your chapbook, you're not supporting your local publisher or like your local print shop. But you could probably make the same argument for the people who are just running to like FedEx Kinko's to print off their chapbooks too, right? In addition to that, if you are planning on having your own books on hand, you're obviously going to need to plan to restock. You can order author copies. Author copies, like for instance, if I wanted an author copy of this book here, because it's hardcover, I believe an author copy is like $253 for author copies of my little workbook, that's probably close to like $150, $2. You know, so the other thing you want to think about too is that when you print author copies, they put you at the end of the queue because Amazon's not making money off of you.
Yeah.
They're pretty much they're giving, when you print an author copy, they're only charging you for the cost it takes to manufacture the book. Okay. So they're not making money off of you. So they're going to put you at the end of the queue.
Yeah.
And there might be a long line. Okay. If you desperately need your author copies, what you can do is you can buy your copies traditionally. It's going to be a higher price. So for instance, like my little workbook, the author copy again is like $152. But if I buy it full price on Amazon, I believe it's $650. You know, but I'll get them sooner. Like for instance, this is actually like I'm leading a session at a conference this weekend, and this is actually something I ran into. I ran out of copies of my little workbook, and originally I was looking at buying some author copies for it, but they wouldn't arrive in time because it would take, I think, 3 weeks for them to arrive.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Versus
if you buy them traditionally,
I bought them traditionally, and like okay, they arrived in 2 days. You know,
Amazon's letting you know.
Yeah, and you know, and you'll recoup it, right? Because you know you'll at the end of the month they'll, you know, when they send out their royalty checks and things like that, you'll get that back. You know, but that is something that you may want to just kind of consider in terms of stocking. The other thing to keep in mind too is that if I go to my print shop and print out my own copies, whatever I charge, I get back. You know, so if I go to FedEx Kinko's, it costs me $20 to print out. Let's say I'm doing black and white to print out maybe $20 to print maybe 10 copies. Does that maybe sound fair depending on your page length, things like that? I pocket all that. Whereas like if I go through Amazon, there's royalties, right? So there's the cost of printing the book, and then Amazon wants their cut, and then you get your cut. And your cuts, your royalty rate's probably going to be somewhere between 40 to 55%. Okay, so just a note there.
Yeah, I think there's a really cool kind of like aspect of not like, even when we're thinking about like not necessarily like having to have books on hand, because like, you know, if you run out of books and you're like, I really want to like re-up with like the books that I have on hand, people always have this option of being able to kind of like reach out and, you know, kind of order their own. I think it's cool that, you know, we were at a show, like one of Diverse's shows, not long, it was last year, but I can't remember the poet's name, but he had like a book that he had just written.
Was it Leland?
Leland, I think so. Like he had that book that he had just written, and I think he was talking about like another like kind of like publishing.
Yeah, I want to talk about that in a moment. Yeah,
but we can talk about that. But yeah, just just the idea of being able to kind of have a little bit more control over the printing process. I know that with Ajane's like book and things like that, it's like, you know, you can buy them directly from Ajane, you can get them off of the website, but as far as like how they circulate and how they print, there's like, you know, because they're in control of things, it's a little bit harder to kind of maneuver in that respect. So the artist being able to kind of control that or have like a little bit like more of a view of that process is always,
it's very transparent. Amazon's like, look, it's this, and like cool. Whereas like if you go through your own publisher, you know, like if you do a contest and things like that, you know, there's that initial print run that they do, but then for additional runs and things like that, you got to be in communication with them, you know, and you probably from their side, if you're just like, hey, I need like 10 more copies, I don't even know if they would necessarily do that, because like print runs are expensive, and usually if they're doing a print run, they're not looking to just print off like 3 books. They're gonna be like, yo, I need like 50,
I need a reason to fire
100. I need
fire,
you know, it's a thing, you know. Whereas this is very much you control it. Let's mention real quick just some other publishing options. So there's presses out there. They're called vanity presses. Another type of press you may see is like a hybrid press. These are also forms of self-publishing, although you may need to submit work to them. They don't. I'll put I haven't heard of any work that they turn down, but you know the. In theory, there's a submission process. If you got rejected from them, let us know. I would, from a research perspective, I would love to know like what kind of work are they turning down? You know, because I would be curious.
That's fair.
And usually with them, the way it works is I mean, you're paying them. You charge them.
Yeah.
Like you very often you're charging them, and it's not like you're just charging like $200. Like typically you're looking at anywhere to like the $2,000 to $5,000 range.
Yeah.
You know, and they'll throw at you an editor, and if they're good, they'll also handle like some marketing aspects with you as well. And then it kind of operates very similar to like the KDP model, where it's like, you know, you get copies and you control that, and things. It's if you want to do no marketing for your book, but you want to have like an online presence or things like that, that Vanity Press might be an option. One that I've looked at before for other types of books, like textbooks, that I was going to write, is called like Rethink Press. They seem solid, but they're, again, not cheap. You know, you're still going to be, I think for the textbook I had planned, they were looking at like $7,500 or something like that, you know? So it's, so these are investments. Whereas like, and the thing is that it's still like, some of it's still like royalty based and stuff like that, you know? So it's, like Amazon's royalty based as well. And I just need to pay for the ISBN, you know? So like if you're comfortable doing any level of marketing and building a platform, then, personally, I would lean more into the Amazon KDP route. But again, we know people that have done there's like, is it like Lulu, I think is one, or something like that. There's Rethink. There's a couple other, I forget the press that Leland uses, like Xantum or something like that. It starts with an X, I think. Anyways, they're out there that you can find them. But I would say, hey, maybe experiment with KDP at least for one of them. Yeah.
Might not be a bad investment. I think there's like, I think that there's a lot of services that, you know, and maybe along the lines of the kind of thing that you're saying, where it's like, you know, like you are the customer, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like the thing that's happening here is that like you are the customer, and and you know, who knows, you know, maybe you do make your investment back and you're able to kind of, you know, expand out from there. But I think a lot of times, like being aware of exactly what you're getting and exactly what you're giving, and like, you know, sometimes an opportunity sounds amazing and it sounds like they're selling you. It's like, almost like, you know, okay, we were on our honeymoon and we won this thing. We did this like little mini. Before we went on a cruise, when we were still in Miami, we went on this little mini kind of freight thing that, you know, it shows you all the mansions or whatever like that in Miami.
You were on a time.
Yeah. Well, no. So the thing that we won was like, we put our names in the hat, and then Ajane always wins stuff like that. But they know. And we went to like get this like timeshare thing. I feel like I've told Jeff this story a lot, but I won't tell the full story. But it's just to say that, like, when you're sitting there and somebody's trying to sell you a timeshare, it's like the thing that they're trying to maybe somewhat communicate to you is like how good of an opportunity this thing is. And it's like, from a perspective of somebody who's like just enjoying themselves and having a good time, it sounds like cool. But, you know, you are a customer. So like, what exactly am I giving up? Oh, only $40,000 a year? That's, you know what I mean? Like, okay. Like,
there's a lot of authors don't know a lot about, they tend to not know a lot about business, right? So there's a lot of businesses out there that are scheming on artists and things like that.
On your want to be like, it's like even the perception of being like a larger artist. And so like they're kind of packaging this thing where it's like, oh, like, do you want a hardcover book, or even like a hardcover book's probably like a lot. Like, even if you want to solve like a paperback book, you know, with however many pages that you want, we'll print in color, all that other stuff. And it's like, just the prospect of having something like that in print, it to a lot of artists is like, oh, that's what it means to be an artist. But I'm like, yeah, how you get there is kind of important too.
They're called vanity presses for a reason. Just gonna throw that. Throw that out. They're
like my eyes just open. I'm like, oh my god.
You know, so do your research. I'm showing all this KDP stuff because in theory, this KDP stuff is aside from purchasing your book, it's free.
Yeah.
It can be free to get your book out into the world in a way that other people can find it. In a way that also looks presentable. Like there's a difference between looking at a chapbook that looked like it was printed at Kinko's, no ISBN, no nothing, versus one that, actually has it. There is like kind of like a legitimacy thing that comes through it, even though, I mean, obviously, it's still self-published, but those little extra steps mean things to people.
Yeah. Yeah. That, and I don't want to say this is like the thing for everything, but it's like, especially, in my early years of like being like a poet that would like, go out of state and go out of city and then go out of state and stuff like that for like bookies and performances. It's like we all had, little small ways of, I think, making more from our engagements than just what we're getting paid from being a feature. And a lot of times like we just, even some of the people that are like, I think now everybody kind of has a little bit more knowledge because we've kind of grown as artists. But back then we were like, we didn't really have like an understanding of like, oh, how do I get my book to, like to this level through this kind of circulation? We're all like, man, like somebody booked us for a feature, 2 weeks ago. And they're paying me $250, but I want to make $500 for this thing. Make a $60 investment to get some to print some things over here real quick. I'm stapling them like the night before, and folding them up, and then I'm just like hopefully trying to sell as many as I can at the location. So like with more knowledge comes better opportunity, more and like clear opportunity to really communicate like a real professional look with your work.
Yeah. All right. That concludes this episode of Arts and Offers. We'll be back next week with another edition. But once again, my name is Jeff.
I'm Matthias.
Thank you guys for your time. We'll see you later. Have a good day, have a good night, and a good afternoon.